Welcome to Indy's Real Estate Gurus. We're recording today from the Advisors Mortgage Group studio right here in downtown Carmel, and I'm Rick Ripma, your hardworking mortgage guy. I've been in mortgages and real estate for over 34 years. I've helped over 5,200 folks finance their homes. My team and I believe in custom-tailored loans, not the one-size-fits-all approach. We believe there is a right mortgage for you, and we believe we are the team to deliver it.
And I'm Arnold, part of Rick's hardworking mortgage team. I've been in the financial industry for over 15 years, helping customers rebuild their credit and get better interest rates for you. I have a passion in helping you secure your future through real estate and make sure you can have wealth for generations.
And as we get started, remember, if you have any real estate or mortgage questions or needs, please go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. You can get all of our contact information from there, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And today we have Mia Chatman.
Hey, you said that right. That's 2 times in a row.
Listen,
I'm proud of you.
I practiced it for an hour. Okay, along with my name, because I mess that up too. But Mia's a phenomenal real estate agent. She's got a really interesting story. We're really excited to have you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me today.
You're welcome.
I'm excited.
Yeah, good. We appreciate it. That's what we like.
We did something right.
And your company is called
Austyn Avenue Real Estate.
Okay.
That's Austyn, Austyn Avenue, Avenue.
And how would
Real
anybody
estate.
get a hold of you?
You can call my phone, text my phone at 317-500-5963. And my email address is mia@austynavenue.com. Again, that's Mia, M-I-A, at Austyn, Austyn, avenue.com.
You just did that to make it hard on people, right? You added that Y. Actually, the reality is I'm a terrible speller, so it does not matter how somebody does it. In fact, I probably would spell it correctly because anytime somebody does something that it's not normal, it's how I do it because I don't spell correctly. So
that's okay.
It all works. And then the number 317-500-5963. Is that correct?
That's right.
Perfect. So what did you do before real estate? Where'd you grow up? How'd you get here?
Oh, let's journey back. So I grew up, I was born and raised in Anderson, Indiana.
Okay.
So small town, everybody knows everybody. And that's where it began. I graduated high school, Highland High School in 2009. And then I went on to college at IUPUI here in Indianapolis. And I thought that I had it all figured out. I didn't know what I was going to do, but I was just going to go to college because that's what you're supposed to do after high school, right?
Yep.
So that's what I did. So I was taking classes, getting into student loan debt and just doing that whole thing. I mean, nobody told me any different. So that's what I did. And it started not to work out. I got distracted. I didn't really... I wasn't really interested in any of the classes. I'm like, what am I really doing here except taking this money and going to class and not really having any type of passion of anything. So it's like I was lost. I was just doing what they all said to do to go to college, right? So it was probably a year or two after that, and I had went on to start working. I'm like, I need some money. I'm not, the school thing is not for me. So I got, a full-time job. I worked in the restaurant industry and, hospitality, I guess, if you will, for a while. And I still didn't like that. I'm like, what am I doing? I'm just doing it for a paycheck, to be honest. And so I had my own apartment. I was doing my own thing. I'm a single woman out, no kids, I'm out just doing my own thing. And then I got into a car wreck. And that led me to not be able to get to work. So everything kind of spiraled down from that. And I had to move back to Anderson with my mom because I had no car, no job, now no apartment. And I'm back at mom's house. So at that point, I'm like 22 or 23 years old, still not even really planning or had an idea of what I wanted to do with my life. I'm like, nothing.
Right.
So I'm at my mom's and I was like, I got to get a job again because I can't just not work. And what happened in 2013, I interviewed for a position with a Remax franchise. And that's kind of how the real estate piece started. And I didn't know anything about real estate. I never thought about it at all. I never knew people, within the industry and made money doing it. I never thought about it. So I was just like, I got to get a job. And these two ladies that interviewed me and hired me seemed like they were great. And, I'm like, okay, it's going to be a learning curve. And they knew I had no experience, but I think it was the personality and kind of just our vibes together that they knew I would be good in this administrative position for this Remax office. So that's what I did. I started that job and I did that for maybe a year, and I got to kind of see the ins and outs of how agents work, but it still didn't click like this is where you're going to be, right? So it was just still doing my job. I made like $11 an hour. I'm thinking, okay, it's good enough to pay my bills. So I went out, I moved out of my mom's again and got my own apartment again. And yeah, I thought it was great just to kind of see the freedom that they had to kind of move in and out of the office. Cause I had to be there at 8:00. I had to be there at 8:00 in the morning to open the place up and get it ready for these people to just kind of come in and out. And I, got to see, like how they, manage like their paperwork and kind of see the contracts and kind of just see what all goes into a transaction, on the administrative side of things. So I just thought the biggest thing that I saw was the commission checks. I saw the closing checks and I'm like, what are these people doing? Like I knew they were out here, just, wheeling and dealing, but I just was like, oh my gosh. So, but still at that time in 2013, it still never really clicked to me. Like, this is where you're going to be. So, I think after that, it was just still that worker mentality. You have to work a job 9 to 5. This is what you have to do. And I was still kind of in that mindset. So I went on and, I felt like I just needed more. I was worth more, right? More than $11 an hour, right? So after a year, I was like, I'm going to get another job. So now that I have this real estate experience, I put that on my resume and I start applying for different jobs within real estate. You can go on Indeed and click the field that you want and a whole bunch of jobs will come up. And that's what I applied for. So I ended up getting a job with a property management company. So I kind of saw what that was like in terms of just a different avenue of what was going on within the real estate field in general. And I was like, okay, well, now I'm getting paid $12 an hour. I'm doing great. I'm like, I got a raise, but at the end of the day, I didn't even know that it was teaching me just another, outlet of what real estate can offer in terms of career choice and just, different strategies and stuff like that. So I'm just kind of taking it all in. And then my dad passed away. It was 2014. And what happened was I kind of spiraled down again. Like I wasn't really interested in my job. I had to be there from 8 to 5. It was one of those office jobs that you had to be there all day. And it just kind of, I was just like, this working 8 to 5 stuff is not for me. It's just not. Like, I hated having someone to tell me, this is where you have to be all day. You have to ask to go on vacation. You have to ask to use the bathroom. You have to ask to do all this stuff. And it's like, oh gosh, I'm too grown. I'm in my 20s at this point, So I'm like, okay. I still did that job. But when my dad passed away, I kind of like just fell out of it and moved on from that. And then I started working for a window company. And that kind of gave me not more freedom because I had to do that job, but it was a little more flexible. It was like, okay, you go to this event over here, you can go over here, and we'll do this. It wasn't the same thing every day, all day, right?
Yep.
So after that, I just kind of, I didn't like that job. I had to stand up all day. If I was working, I had to stand up and greet people and, be this kind of appointment setter is what it was called. And I didn't like that. So I was like, okay. So now it seems like I'm just jumping through, getting job to job, but that's what it was. Like, that's what I did. And, I had to pay my bills because at that point I had an apartment I had to maintain.
Right.
So what happened after that is I was like, okay, I'm going to put this on my resume again because now I have this resume full of real estate experience and apply to another job. So I got a job at another property management company, but it was for leasing. And a little bit in between that, I did lease apartments. But again, I had to go to the office. I was there all day. So we know how that story ends. We know how that story ends, right? So I'm like, oh gosh, right? So that was a short time too. That was short lived as well. But so I got the job with this other management company, and they did leasing they needed a leasing agent for their like single family homes, duplex homes that they managed, and that's what I did. I was just the leasing agent. And I came in and I was still like a W-2 employee, like we're going to pay you. But it was like, I got paid based on each lease and how much it was. And I was able to set my own appointments and schedule. And I kind of worked from home a little bit. And I only needed to go in the office when I had to like turn in some paperwork. So I was like, oh, this is more my flow. This is more my speed. Because I ended up doing that job for 7 years.
Oh, okay.
So I was like, okay, well, this is kind of where I need to be. And within that time, I think I got that job in 2015. And then while I was there, the manager encouraged me to go ahead and get my license. So I'm like, okay, well, whatever that means, right? I still didn't know that meant like you're going to be a licensed realtor, right? So I'm like, okay, I'll just go ahead and get my license. But I still did that job. And so that's how I kind of came about getting my license, but it still didn't click, right? So I had my license, but I was still working this leasing job, and I wasn't getting paid a whole lot, but it paid my bills, and I was able to, set my own schedule, do my own thing. So that's what happened. And I became a licensed realtor, but I still had that job. And then it was a few years after that, it was maybe 18 months going into 2 years, because after you get your real estate license, you have to hang it with a broker for 2 years. And it was nearing the 2-year mark, and that the management company held my license. So it was pretty smooth. But again, I didn't learn anything as far as how to leverage my license. So it was like, I was just doing my job, and they wanted to keep me there. I was great at it, so they didn't encourage me to do bigger and better things. So I'm like 18 months in, I'm like, you know what? I have this license. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to quit my job again. And I'm just going to go off and do my own thing because I have a license now, right? So I went to another brokerage, and I was like, this isn't what I thought it was. Because now I'm like, no income at all. I don't have a job. I don't know how to generate leads. I don't really know how to be a realtor with my license. So, that brokerage was good, and it provided leads. But then I quickly learned these are not hot leads. Like you got to nurture them. You got to do that. And this was just something I wasn't familiar with doing. So it was, I don't know if it was, I don't know. The job that I had prior leasing with the property management company called me back on my birthday in maybe 2018 or something. And he was like, I need you to come back and do the leasing again. And I said, you know what? Okay. Because I need the money. This whole realtor thing is not working out right now. I don't know what I'm doing. And, and the brokerage, they provide as much as they can and support, but it still was like, I need money right now. Right. So of course I went back and I did that, but I kept my license with that broker. And I said, you know what? I'll come back to work, but it's on my own terms. I'm not going to be your employee. I'll be an independent contractor. You pay me by the lease. And it was that's how I got kind of what commission life was like. So, but of course there were leads, and he provided all of that for me. So I was able to finish out my 2 years, and I said, you know what? I can hold my own license now. So I went to the state, transferred it into my own name. I didn't have a brokerage or anything to be with. I just held my own license. So that's what happened. And I just continued to do that job. And then it was probably 2019 when I transferred my license into my to myself, I guess, held my own license, that someone from Anderson that I grew up with and went to high school with contacted me about wanting to buy a house. So that's where my first client came from. And I didn't know anything. And the guy that I was leasing for, he didn't teach me anything because he didn't want me to even learn that stuff. He wanted me to keep me doing leasing. So I'm like, okay. But I figured it out.
Yep.
I figured it out. I knew people like on social media that, did mortgages. I'm like, I know you got to get a loan for it. So here's a guy that does this, and I kind of learned with that transaction how it worked. Nobody taught me. I had to do it on my own.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where the basis started.
Okay. So if somebody wants to get a hold of you for any real estate needs, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
My phone number, 317-500-5963. Texting is better because then I can call you if I'm not available at that moment.
Okay. What's that number again?
317-500-5963.
All right. Perfect. And to get a hold of Ian or I, it's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. Or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938. And thank you for listening to Indy's Real Estate Gurus. The gurus we interview share valuable insights. They reveal their strengths, personalities, and how they'll work with you. While we hardworking mortgage guys secure your best mortgage, real estate gurus work hard too. They avoid problems the amateurs don't see. They listen. They find unrealized opportunities. If you're buying or selling a home, a real estate guru is a valuable asset. If you're even thinking of buying or selling a home, keep listening and definitely call one of Indy's real estate gurus.
So, Mia, that is a phenomenal story because most people, like I went to college too, and I did the same thing you did. What am I doing?
Yeah.
I mean, I went for computer networking because I was like, I don't want to. Then I was like, I don't want to sit at a desk all day. That's just not me. I want to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting that most people are like, oh no, you must go to college. You must know what you want to do. But you knew that you had to find yourself.
Yeah.
You had to figure out what works good for you. And sometimes that's just what the path takes. So I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
So when you got into real estate and when you first got it, so when you sold that first one, so did you just start going social media style, or how did you start?
Well, I think that it did open up a lot of opportunity when you first do that first deal, right? And I definitely put it on social media. So I think today that's just where our customers are. That's where all the eyes are, on social media. And it was just a snowball effect after that, like, hey, especially when your clients are the one posting it, like, and you're just kind of sharing it, like, yeah, I helped them. And I think that it helps generate business. It helps people feel more comfortable, and you're the one that looks like the professional, which I am. But, I think it does help with the social media. And I think that's probably been the biggest driver of my business, where I don't have to pay for leads. I don't have to, door knock or cold call. I think it's just organic connections that have built my business.
Yeah. Well, what I heard is every job was preparing you to be a real estate agent.
Mm-hmm.
You started in learning the contracts and learning kind of what goes on behind the scenes and all of that. And then when you were in leasing, you learned how to show houses. When you were working for the window company, you learned how to do an open house, right?
Yeah.
Maybe not exactly, but you learned how to stand there, how to present, what you got to, you learned, and unbeknownst to you, based on what you said, you were being trained to be a real estate agent.
That's true.
Right?
Now that I think about it, it makes sense.
Yeah. As you said, as you were walking through, I kept thinking, well, I see what that did for her. I see what that did for her. I see what that did for her.
Yep.
And then finally, who knows who, somebody, maybe, God, who I don't know, but somebody said, okay, it's time.
Yeah.
Here's a customer.
Yep.
Go be a real estate agent.
Yep. And it wasn't until I held my own license, because when you're with brokerages, they take a cut of your money. they take a little bit of your money, and especially, and they didn't even have to give you the lead to do it, right? So I'm like, okay, that's kind of what clicked. Like, there's not a brokerage doing anything for me. So every time I got paid, like from the leasing, my brokerage would take a cut of it, and it's like, why? But I guess that's the name of the game, right? So okay, fine. But that's why it pushed me to hold my own license so I could get 100% of my efforts. And that's what happened. And I think that my brokerage actually got created by accident. I don't know if we can go into that. But
you want to.
But what happened was I was holding my own license as what they call like a sole proprietor, right?
Right.
Where you're not really with anybody, you're just a licensed agent. So I was doing that, doing the leasing. I had a few sales under my belt. I was rocking and rolling. And then I had a new build client. First new build, I had no idea about new construction. So it was like, I took them around to see houses. They didn't really like them. So we tried the new build route. So I go into their office. I learned quickly that the construction company handles everything.
Yes.
They literally just pay realtors to bring their people. And of course, you have to negotiate it. Yeah.
That kind of thing.
You have to kind of be their liaison between the two, but they're the ones drafting the contracts and doing everything.
Yes.
With the house. So it was easy enough just to introduce them and kind of be there with my clients through that process. But the builder company said, we're not going to pay you because you're not with a brokerage. And I'm like, but I'm a licensed realtor. Like, I do this. This is what I do.
You aren't with a brokerage. You are a broker. But go ahead.
And I am.
Right.
But I didn't have an office or I wasn't with a company. So I was like, okay, well, so the building process takes months. So I'm like, okay, I have this time before we close on that house to, I guess, get a brokerage. So that's what I did.
That's why
I had to create an office officially with the state and with my board, and I had to be, because I wasn't going to hang it with another broker,
right.
So I had to create my own.
Yeah.
And that's where Austyn Avenue was born.
Awesome.
So how did you come up with the name?
The name. Well, it's crazy because you know how everywhere, every street, everything has like a suffix, like avenue, road, street, boulevard. And I just kind of put my stamp on it because Austyn is actually my daughter's middle name. So her name is Riley Austyn. And so it was just kind of my stamp, like Austyn Avenue. Like that's my piece of real estate. So that's kind of where it came from.
So we hear this from a lot of realtors. So do you take your daughter to show homes and everything?
Oh yeah. Well, not now. She's in preschool. She started preschool in February. So she's been home for 5 years. Like it's so crazy now that I think back about it. It's been 5 years. I have been, what was 2017, like 6 years ago or something?
Yep, 6
years ago.
Okay,
it
so
flies.
I had just got my license. Crazy because I was working all through, being pregnant. I remember being pregnant, almost about to deliver when, I went to the hospital, like I'm about to have this baby. And they were like, nope, you're not dilated enough, go home. And I'm like, oh gosh. So that at that time, there was a closing going on. So I'm having contractions. I'm like, the pyramids on 86th Street, that's where the closing was. Okay. And the hospital I was at was, no, I done spaced it.
Obviously not St. Vincent's on 86th Street right now.
It is St. Vincent, the Women's Center. That's exactly where I was.
Okay.
I wanted to call it St. John's because that was in Anderson, but it's St. Vincent.
All right.
But I went from the hospital to the closing having contractions, and they're like, why'd you come here? We're done now. And it's like, okay. So that's how, like, now that I think back, like, I'm really dedicated to this. Like, I was in labor, working, emailing, and it's like, oh my gosh. So now that it's crazy because she's here and she's been at home for 5 years now, since, ever since before February. And she's been with me the whole time. Showings, closings, meetings. Like she just had to come with me because I wasn't paying $800-900 a month in daycare. That was just too expensive, not affordable. And then, she wasn't old enough to go to preschool, so she had to come with me, and everybody else, her dad, and, they work and have their own lives. So she's my kid. She's got to come, right? So that's what happened.
And so she's a real estate agent.
Oh, she's
Is she licensed yet?
Riley the realtor. She's not licensed, but she will be probably, because that's all she knows. That's all she sees me do. So.
It's interesting though when we talk to real estate agents, they have a little different path. Their parents are realtors. That so many of them were like, "No, I don't want to be a realtor.
Oh yeah,
I hate it. I hate it." And so they go off doing something else. Usually 5-6 years later, guess what they are?
Yep.
They come on back home.
Come on back.
Yeah, they do.
Yep. But I think she likes it. There were a few times that, I would have to go and take pictures of houses and stuff that were for leases. I was leasing at the time. But she was probably 2 or 3 years old, like, showing me the house. Like, we'll go in there and she'll say, "This is the closet." And you can, I remember her saying, "The door shuts." And I'm like, "Oh, right. Great feature." So she's sweet. She's so sweet.
That's crazy.
Hey, until you get the door that doesn't shut, you're really like, "Yeah, that was a great point."
Yeah.
Now, I heard a story that as a toddler, and she still is a toddler, I guess, she had a credit card.
Yep. I put her on a couple of my credit cards, and there are credit cards out there that have no age limit, and you can literally use their social and everything, and they'll send them a card with their name on it. And she has a couple of them, and I think when she gets older, she'll have all that history, all that payment history. Of course,
No, you let a 4-year-old handle it.
And she actually did swipe it the other day at Walmart. She bought her own bike and her own helmet, and she swiped her credit card, and she was so excited about it. But of course, that's my credit line. She's an authorized user on mine. That's what it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm responsible with mine, so of course that reflects on her credit report once it comes available, I guess, at the right age.
All right. And how would somebody get a hold of you?
My phone number, texting is better than calling. 317-500-5963.
And to get a hold of Ian or I, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com, or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938.
All right. Now I think it should be time for question of the week.
I think that's right.
I think it is. The question of the week is sponsored by, Rick and I, the hardworking mortgage guys, where we believe in helping and supporting you and your realtor by sending constant updates through the loan process. Nobody likes to be left in a black hole, so contact us and we'll keep you out of a black hole. All right. So what was your first car?
My first car?
Yeah.
Ooh, let me think. It was a Chrysler 300, 1999. Chrysler 300. I bought it with my student loan money. And I thought and that's the car that I actually wrecked and had to move back in with my mom. But I love that car so much. I thought it was so clean. It had leather. It was black. I was like, I'm doing my thing.
Those were popular cars.
Yeah.
I mean, they may still be, but man, for
car.
a long time, they were like one of the most popular cars out there.
Yeah.
They looked wonderful.
Yeah, I loved it.
And you can't go wrong with a black car.
Yeah. It was so nice.
Except for
Black
when
and
it's
so
always dirty.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Why do you have to be negative?
Hey, we're both in the car industry. Trust me. Oh, well, I want to go see that black car over there.
No.
Oh, man. I got to run through the cars really quick.
They get dusty.
They do get dusty. My second favorite's black. My favorite color is a white car.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody thinks, oh, they get dirty. No, they don't. White cars, that's why I like them.
Yeah.
They don't show the dirt anywhere near as much as a black car.
Yeah.
But a clean black car, there is no car that looks better
it
than a
looks real
clean
good.
car that's black. They're
That's
just
true.
beautiful.
That's true.
So, do you want me to ask a question?
Yeah.
All right.
I want to hear something about a super or something.
Okay, good. Yeah, this is one of my favorite questions. So, what is your superpower or superpowers?
Superpowers. Oh, now I feel like
You
a
stumped her.
superhero. Like, okay,
Yeah.
let me
Do you
think
fly? I mean,
I
do you
mean-
leap tall buildings in a single bound?
She teleports to houses.
That's awesome too.
I would just say my authenticity, me being who I am. I don't fake anything. I'm real transparent. I'm honest, easy to get along with. Just me, just being me.
Your superpower is being you. That's a great one.
Super.
Hey, nobody else can have that superpower.
That's right. It's so unique.
Very unique. Yeah. But it's actually probably the most true thing anybody could say, because that's really who you are is
Nobody can have this
right,
superpower.
and that is all you. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's phenomenal. So speaking of because of how you do things, I know one of yours, it may not be it's probably a superpower because it's part of you, but we touched on it, social media.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a big piece of your business. So if somebody's out there, a real estate agent's out there, they don't know anything about social media, because what we found is there's agents who use it and they do phenomenally well, and there's agents who don't use it at all and they do phenomenally well, but they don't do it with social media. And then there's people trying to learn what to do.
Yeah.
What would you say to those people that don't use it or are trying to figure it out, and how should they use social media?
It's really funny because on social media, you can really be anything you want. You can make it look like anything you want. So I think if somebody is looking to build more on social media, they just have to kind of take what they do every day and put that online. If you're showing houses all day, put it online. If you're working at the computer and you're running some comps or whatever, just record it on your phone and upload it online. That's really all it is. And that just kind of shows that audience what you do, who you are, and just have fun with it.
So they record a video or just take a picture?
Both.
Okay.
Yeah.
You do both.
Yeah, both.
And do you and so let's talk about, because somebody who doesn't know, what social media should they use?
I like Facebook. I think the algorithm kind of tailors it to where you are and your location and the people that live around there. Okay. So it kind of puts you in like a local audience, unless you're like paying for ads and wanted to blast over the country and stuff. But I think Facebook, social media, and then
What about
Instagram.
Yeah.
Instagram, I do have an Instagram. But my main thing is Facebook.
Okay.
So should Rick still be on MySpace?
I don't think so.
I want to tell you something. Okay. MySpace. I was never on MySpace ever, because it came out when I was at an age where you didn't do that.
Yeah. I had MySpace. That was my first social media.
I think that was everybody's.
Yeah.
Because
That was my
Facebook came out.
Not everybody.
Not everybody.
You made fun
but
of me for being on Facebook, and the reality, or on MySpace. The reality is, I never was on MySpace.
Yeah.
that you know of.
It's crazy now that there's so many different outlets and channels. Like, I haven't got into TikTok. I haven't got into like YouTube. Like, there's so many that I haven't really tapped into, but I don't feel like I need to. Like, right. I feel like I'm doing okay. I'm doing well enough, and I can teach my agents to do well just with the platforms, because I don't want too many. It gets overwhelming. Then you have to hire somebody to do it all for you, and I'm just like, nope. So there are other social media platforms that you can use, but for me personally, it's really just mainly Facebook, Instagram. I mean, there's a LinkedIn, but that's more on the professional side. Right. If you're looking to gain more business on your client base. I mean, but LinkedIn is good too if you're like an investment realtor and you're looking to network with those kinds of people. And, there's a lot of different avenues to do on social media.
So you were talking about you don't want to hire somebody for that. So have you thought about growing your brokerage?
Oh, so yeah. So recently, like I said, my brokerage was an accident. So it was not planned at all. And what I'm recently was thinking is I can do this on a larger scale. Like I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm going to go flip houses. I'm going to go be an investor. And it's like, I've worked with investors, but I haven't been an investor. And so I'm like, I need to kind of drive my focus on what I know and what I'm good at. And so just recently, I'm like, I'm going to grow this brokerage. So currently, it's just been organic. I haven't done any like advertising. I'm hiring realtors, come join me. It's just been organic. And I have 4 realtors right now that I hold their license. And one of them is actually my sister.
Oh, wow.
She's
Okay.
newly licensed. She got licensed this year. And so I'm able to work with her and, teach her the ropes and stuff like that. So it's nice to work, with a family member. But everybody else, it's been, just organic, them getting their license, them seeing what I can do, and then, them looking for a broker to hang their license with. And it's like, well, I'm a broker now. I can hold your license,
Right.
and I'm like, if I can do it, I can teach somebody else to do it. So that's kind of how it's been with the realtors that I have now. But I think that was in 2021 that I got my first agent. And I think now that it might be a time to expand and grow that team.
And there is value for somebody, in my opinion, to come into a broker and have the mentorship, because mentorship is really important, which you didn't have at the start.
Right.
And so you had to learn it all on your own.
So long.
Yeah, right. If you'd had a mentor, I think that could have cut down on your learning curve, and it would have helped you. You still got there, right? It just would have maybe cut some time.
Oh, yeah.
So mentors are extremely important.
Yep.
Well, one of the things I know, I think would be interesting to talk about is, and my son bought up in Chicago, bought a house, and it was like off market, which a lot of people have never heard of. So what is off market real estate, and how does a real estate agent be a part of that?
Well, it's kind of the same as far as like brokering a deal. It just never gets inputted into the MLS. So have you ever seen those signs around, we buy houses fast, cash, call us, we'll buy your house?
Yes.
That's off-market real estate. Those are typically wholesalers who will essentially get a property under contract to purchase and then have an end buyer sign another contract saying, well, I'll buy your contract from the owner. So it never hits the MLS. I mean, it gets recorded. It goes through the title company. It's a legit deal, but it just never goes on the market. So, and you don't have to have a license to do that.
So what they do is they find the house before they advertise, so that somebody does it before they list it, usually, probably. Yeah. So they try to get in ahead of it. Then they go ahead and get a purchase agreement, and then they sell it to somebody else. That's before they ever close. And then it closes in the other person's name.
Yep. So they can either do like an assignment contract where they assign their purchase agreement to an end buyer, or they do what's called a double close, and they'll actually close on it, and then the title company at the same time does another transaction to put it in the end buyer's name.
Is that something you help people with?
Oh, yeah, I've been in between a few of those deals. Yeah. So that's kind of what I like to say that sets me apart from some other realtors is I know both sides. So I just recently had a deal where the seller had an investment property. It was a rental, and it wasn't in the best of area, and it was a vacant house. So when we were talking, she was like, I want you to help me sell this house, but I don't want it to go on the market. It'll make it vulnerable. It'll have a lot of eyes on it. It's vacant. I don't want somebody to break in and trash it or whatever. So I'm like, well, I know the other side of it. We don't have to put it on the market for it to get sold. And what happened was, I didn't have to put it under contract. I think I built that rapport with her to where she trusted me that I could, deliver and actually sell her house without putting it on the market. And that's what I did. I reached out to my contacts. I have a good, network of buyers, cash buyers that, either have private money, hard money, or actual cash that will, if it's a good deal, they'll buy it.
Right.
So I don't have to put it on the market. I have that network where I can, have on and off market selling solutions.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting to hear, because we've had people on that do similar things, but nobody's actually explained it. I think it helps to really know how that works.
Yeah.
So it's, you could have somebody out there that's thinking, I'd like to buy houses like that. They could talk to you, and you'd be a perfect person for them, to work with because you understand it.
Yeah.
So I think that's phenomenal.
Oh, yeah.
I think you have a good question.
Oh, yes. So what do you think, what would you consider one of your most memorable deals?
The memorable deals. I have so many.
She can't remember.
It just it just depends. It just depends if we're talking like a good memory or a bad memory.
Look,
whatever you want.
Because
every job we all know there's good and bad, but sometimes the bad is a learning experience.
Yeah, it is. I know that there were first the one that developed my brokerage is probably the most impactful one, because that's what kind of got me here today. But on the other side, I think I got one. I was working with a home buyer, and he was buying a house that was occupied by a renter, and the owner must not have communicated that the house was being sold. And it was the day before closing. And you know how you got to do your final walkthrough and stuff like that. We found that right before we closed, they trashed that house, broke windows. They took the garage door off. You know, the overhead door that slides up and down. They took it off. How do you even take that off? Where do you even put that? Right. So
they took it with them too.
They took it off and it was gone. And they completely trashed the house. It was crazy. And so I was like, well, must not have been meant for you to move in there, because they have to maintain the condition of the house until we close.
Exactly.
And it was the day before closing.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh gosh, that's why. That was a very memorable deal. It never closed, but
you want to forget it.
Yeah.
But so here's one huge thing, and I did not realize this before I got into the industry. So when my wife and I bought our house, we went and looked at it. We looked at it a couple times. Then we had an inspector come up. We didn't look at the house again until after we signed paperwork.
Oh.
So while you're telling this story, I'm like, what would that have happened to me? I would have been so mad. So lesson for anybody out there, the day before, go look at the house.
The morning of closing or something. Before you sign the paperwork, make sure it's okay.
Yeah.
I will say let me do a good rememberable one. There was a family in California that reached out to me on social media. It was Instagram. They reached out to me on social media, and they're like, we're moving to Indiana. And they had never been here. They just knew they did the research on states, and they just landed on Indiana. And then they landed on my page somehow, because I'm marketing, I'm doing my thing, not knowing that people across the country can see me, not even thinking about it. But hey, lo and behold, she reached out to me, and I'm like, yeah, I can help you buy a house. They're like, we're selling our house here, so we're paying cash for the house out there. I'm like, great, that makes you very competitive in this market. And so they were sending me all these houses, and they never even came out here. I never even met them, never even saw them. And I sold them a house, and they moved out here. They actually moved south of here near like Evansville.
Wow.
And I wasn't even a part of that MLS. I wasn't even in that area, but she trusted me. I was doing great. I was up and down the state looking for them a house. And we settled on one. She closed. They were actually traveling across the country when she stopped in like Arizona or something to close the documents.
Wow.
And I had never met them, never talked, never in person, and they moved here just on a whim. And
have you ever met them?
Yeah, she came up here. She came up here, after they had moved in and got settled and stuff.
Nice.
So I didn't mean her.
It's always, at least in today, you've got other ways to meet people, Zoom, all that kind of things. But one last question: there's so many misconceptions about what a real estate career is really all about.
Yeah.
What can you talk about that?
So I think, and this is just my personal opinion, I think people see realtors and they like see money. They think it's like all about the money. They're getting these big closing checks. They're just driving nice cars. They all look nice. So I think people want to get into, the business thinking that's what it's about, and I have to kind of educate people, and even a couple of the realtors that I have now, like, it's not about that. It's almost not even about the house. It's about the people that are buying and selling them and living in the houses. And so I always want to educate people and let them know, like, you have to be a people's realtor. You can have show the nice fancy houses or even the ugly houses and say you're closing a bunch of deals, but it's really about the people behind it, know. And it's not just about contracts and closing and getting checks. Like, you really have to be a people person and really be passionate about the people that you're helping and working with. Because a lot of people don't know anything about closing on a home or buying a home. And that's kind of where you have to come in. And I like to say I'm not even a salesperson. I'm not a salesy type person. Because when I think about salespeople, it's like, hurry up and buy. Buy this, buy, buy. And I'm not that. I like to think of myself, like, the position that I hold as a realtor is more like support, guidance, or more of an advisor. So it's being a realtor, I think it's changed a little bit. Because when I think of a realtor, when I was younger, I thought of like business suit. You have to be dressed up every day and be this professional person, and you have to be professional. But in terms of look, and you have to look like something, and you have to, it's not that. It's not that. You have to build relationships and rapport with people. And that's how you become a successful realtor. Because again, I'm not that salesy, hurry up and buy. And this is not a hurry up and buy field.
No.
These people are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on homes. And you can't take that lightly. You can't take that like as I'm going to get a big check at the end. It's like, no, you have to make sure it works for those people.
Right.
So I think that, some people may look at realtors like, it's just a good way to make money, but you do good by people, the money will follow.
Right. Yeah. It's about the relationships.
That's all it's about.
100%.
That's it.
Yep.
All right. So if somebody wants to get in a relationship with you and buy or sell a home, how will they get in contact with you?
You can give me a call or text at 317-500-5963.
And if you need to get a hold of Ian or I, go to hardworkingmortgageguys.com. That's hardworkingmortgageguys.com. Or you can call 317-672-1938. That's 317-672-1938.
All right. And Mia, we'd like to thank you for coming on the show. You were
you.
phenomenal.
Thank you.
And a reminder, if you have any friends, family, or coworkers looking to buy, sell, or refinance, contact us and we'll be more than happy to help you. And follow us for more at Indy's Real Estate Gurus.
Branch NMLS number 33041. Rick Ripma's NMLS number 664589. Ian Arnold's NMLS number is 1995469. Equal housing opportunity. Some restrictions apply.